Welcome to the Been There, Sold That podcast, where you can take away sales and business tips to grow your business efficiently, effectively, and profitably. Take it away, Brianna Hendley and Phil Whitebloom.
Hello, Phil. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you? And congratulations on your big event for your contest.
Thank you.
Very proud of Brianna. She's going on a big mission to enter a bodybuilding contest, and this
I already
last
did.
weekend was the contest.
Yep.
And did you have fun?
I did. I had a blast. I feel like it's very, very similar in business when you've got a process. Everybody likes to deviate from the process, right? I feel like whenever you talk to somebody, oh, I can do it better. I can do it quicker. I can do it faster. And one of the things that I've learned specifically within bodybuilding, it's not about how quick you can get there. It's not about how fast you can get there. It's ensuring that everything you're doing, the food you're eating, the workouts you're doing, every move counts. How you do the move, when you show up, when you eat the food, everything counts. So the cool part about that is, so I had an awesome time. It was amazing, right? And in my head, I'm like, oh, I know how to hack this. I know how to hack this process. Let's get as efficient as possible on that. So all that is to come in my world, and I'll be working that out. But it did bring me back to business, of course, and working with my clients. And again, you can't rush the process. You actually have to do the steps. You have to show up consistently. You have to be dedicated. You have to be in the right mindset every single day. So it just further solidified the training that I've gone through and how that can correlate into your life, not only for your business, but also in your day-to-day, your personal life with your family and everyone else. So it's been a cool experience, and I'm going to keep going on that journey, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And by the way, if you all of you out there, if you don't have an accountability coach, somebody to help you to stay on task and everything, get one. And
Yes.
get one that doesn't yes ma'am you or yes man you all the time. Get one that's just going to be straight with you and everything else. And the good news is, and the bad news for me is, my accountability coach is, you're listening to her right now. And you're looking, it's Brianna. So now that she's gone through this, I'm really sweating bullets. So, but hey, while we're rambling on here, I see somebody sitting over here to the side. Who would that be?
So we have a guest today, Grady Gardner. He's located out of Denver, and he's with the company Braintrust. We have, right? It's a AI company,
right.
And he's going to tell us all about it. It is so cool. I come from the recruiting side of the house, operations, development, again, streamlining, ensuring you've got the right people that are coming into the business and keeping them engaged. And, what do you do with hiring, firing, developing, all those things? So I'm super excited to hear more about what you have and how that can help small, medium-sized business owners, as well as big, large corporations. It's going to change the way that recruiters and HR departments do business. So I'm so excited to hear more about that.
Right. And one last little kind of a setup for you is that one of the things that I have evolved into by client demand is helping businesses to hire salespeople better.
Yeah.
And a statistic that I read, you may even have better statistics, is that every bad sales hire costs the company between $60,000 and $1 million per bad hire. And that was not my number. So I've taken on that, and I'm not a recruiter. I don't go out recruit, everything else. Once they've passed the initial screening, they have to get through me before they get to the people, whether it's the CEO or the executives that are responsible for the ultimate hire, before they get there. And because I've been doing it for so many decades. But now here you are with a new tool, and I am all about technology and how it could help and understanding. So Grady, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, about your company, and about your offering? We're very excited to hear it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, to your point there, Phil, this is one of those products that I dog food myself all the time when specifically hiring salespeople, and it's made my life infinitely less stressful, to be honest. And we're in kind of the small medium bucket as far as businesses go. So I'll talk you kind of through how I use it and kind of what interesting nuggets I've learned on like the sales side of this thing. So a little background on Braintrust and myself. So Braintrust is kind of a two-part company. We've been around since kind of early 2020. So launched right when COVID hit, which was a fun experience. We started off as a talent marketplace. So think, like an Upwork or Fiverr type model. So talented people on one side, mostly like Fortune 2000 companies on the other side. We specifically focused on tech IT workers, mostly software developers, product designers, product managers. And our original vision was we wanted to create the first talent marketplace that was owned and controlled by the users, so the talent. And so with that, we created a blockchain token originally as an incentive mechanism to invite and attract software developers to Braintrust. We would then vet them pretty thoroughly, which we'll talk about here in a sec, and then connect them with jobs at our companies. And our whole thing was we wanted to be the most fair, equitable marketplace out there that's owned and controlled by the talent, charges the least amount of fees. And with that, we happened to time it really well in 2020 and 21 when everybody could not hire enough software developers after laying a lot of them off and then wanting to rehire them as basically contractors. Our business went from like zero to $80 million rev in less than 2 years. It was moving as fast as absolutely possible, which was a very, very exciting time. And then, after that kind of tapered off from a hiring perspective, we started to look internally on some of the really cool stuff that we built specifically to solve our own problems. So at that time, we were getting, 200,000 software developers a month that were applying to get into Braintrust. And our promise to our customers was we would vet every single one of them that we connected them with. And so starting, Brianna, to your point, with armies of recruiters trying to do that, and then testing about every piece of software that existed to interview and vet software developers, from coding tools to automated interviews to whatever, and just like nothing did a good enough job at enough scale for us. And so we started hacking together basically all kinds of different versions of solutions to try and produce high quality candidates at scale as fast as we could. And with that, we basically emerged what is now kind of our second product line, which is called Braintrust AIR for AI Recruiter. And it specifically is designed from an agent perspective to go out and vet now any role type, originally software developers, but any role type very, very thoroughly, produce a highly accurate scorecard while creating a really nice candidate experience. And then shortlist those candidates so recruiting teams can pick them up very quickly and spend the time with folks that would be best for that particular role. And so now that's kind of the direction of our company. We've got marketplace as kind of the first half, which is a fantastic business. And we've pivoted a very large portion of our kind of internal resources over to now AI development tools. We've just figured out there's so much opportunity for improvement, not only in just TA and HR space, but across a lot of businesses. And we've got a pretty big leg up given our enterprise customer base that we've been solving problems for from an AI perspective. And now that is kind of the future of our company. It's up building AI and AI agents for lots of different organizations.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about your role in the company, what you do, and how many folks you manage, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I've got kind of a two-part role. My main job is go-to-market. So I've got all the sales, account management, customer support, operations, basically anybody that would talk to a customer at this point in any kind of way. That's me. I'm responsible for the revenue. And then my partner, Adam, he takes the engineering side of the house. So he's got product and engineering, and I've got kind of everything else these days.
And do you have salespeople that work directly for you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I've got the sales team, kind of dovetailing into what I was alluding to earlier. I'm hiring salespeople all the time. We've got a relatively small team, but, for a person that we don't have a recruiting team, like I don't have anybody who supports myself. And as you know, hiring salespeople is really hard. And especially as if you're the hiring manager plus the recruiter plus all the things, like I got into the habit of not even posting jobs. I was like, I'd be out for 3 days and I get 100 candidates a day per job I have posted on LinkedIn. And like, I'd come back 4 days later and just like have anxiety through the roof that like now I have to go like look at all of those. And I was like, essentially screw this. Like, I'm just not going to post jobs anymore. Like, it's not worth my time. I'm only going to ask for referrals, and like you limit your pool pretty quick. And that works for a while, but now my workflow has completely changed. Like it is like flipped upside down on how I personally recruit these days, where I can go back to posting jobs externally. And now I just route everybody through AIR. It's a twofer for us because they interview with the product, which by the way is like a fully conversational. It's like you're joining a Zoom meeting with an AI. It's talking to you. You're not like looking at like a creepy avatar that's supposed to look like a person. It's more like some digital graphics on the screen with some text. But it's a really nice candidate experience. And what's cool is for them, it's the product they're going to be selling, right? So they're interviewing with effectively the product that they're selling. And then on my side, I can screen through hundreds of candidates a day. And kick out who my top ones are instantly. And then for me, it's actually now turned into a fun thing where I see these people coming through. I see a great score come through. I can jump in and watch a quick video of them. And I'm like, damn, Brianna's awesome. Like, I'm going to bring her in for an interview tomorrow. And I would have never even found you even remotely close if I was doing that on my own.
So a question for you to put things in perspective for us and all the listeners is, what is an average sales size look to you? Or however you want to define that. I don't want to limit you on your answer. So what does an average sale look like to you, with the goal of driving my thought process here is to ultimately discovering, your challenges and what you're trying to overcome in the sales side, and hence the whole business development side, right?
Yeah. So for us on the software side of the house, we're typically selling into, say, like CHRO or head of talent acquisition, whoever runs kind of the recruiting organization. And this could be for either a large company or, a small company. The typical pain points that we're looking at are going to be kind of one of three or four things. One is I post a job to LinkedIn or Indeed, and I get hundreds, if not thousands of applicants, and it's impossible for my recruiter to sort through. Probably most common use case. Second is just high volume hiring. So for a lot of big companies, think like more blue collar, light industrial, home health, call center, stuff like that, where like it's just repetitive hiring. And you're just trying to get to the candidate as fast as you can because they're applying to 15 jobs at a time, and it's whoever gets back to them first is going to kind of get them into the process. So this can speed up a lot of that. And then another one would be kind of like seasonality. So like a lot of companies will be ramping up for seasonal events. We're working with one of the cities right near here, Denver, where it's summer season. They're hiring lifeguards, they're hiring park rangers, they're hiring, like a bunch of random stuff, but it's like high volume and they got to get it done in like a 30-day period, right? And like trying to get people through the application interview process and scale is, what we're looking to help them with. And so how we price and how we kind of think about it is on interview volumes effectively. So, for a small organization, they could be hiring, a couple people a month. And you'd have, an average deal size of probably, 5, 10K, something like that. Up until like a large scale organization who's spending, a couple $100,000 with us a year. And what's really interesting is our payback period, the ROI is like very black and white on this, which is why I think we've been doing so well. Like when it comes into like the AI landscape, I think proving ROI is actually quite challenging. Even if you're like, hey, I'm going to get enterprise GPT licenses, which everybody loves, trying to quantify the benefit of having a GPT license, it's actually kind of hard. Even though you're like, hey, I use it 10 times a day or 20 times a day or whatever. For us, you're quite literally replacing human interview hours with a system that can do it at scale much faster and much cheaper. And so it's a very direct ROI for us in the sales process. It's all about building the business case. They're going to have to fund this. And TA doesn't historically have budgets really, to go invest in.
And TA means
talent acquisition.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, it's recruiting teams.
Yep.
In HR, everybody's being told to do more with less. And so what a lot of these groups are looking at is if I've got 20 recruiters, if I don't backfill one of them who churns out, I can usually pay for Braintrust, and then Braintrust will be able to do the interview volume of all 20 for that one person's salary. So that's kind of how we're typically looking at things. So it was huge spectrum on average sales price, anywhere from 10K to 300 or something like that. Yeah.
I'm thinking about it on the recruiting side. So for recruiting companies,
Yeah.
for HR departments, you still have to learn. There still needs to be somebody that's on point on this, that's got to figure it out, that's got to be the subject matter expert, right? I mean, as with every piece of software, there needs to be somebody. So what was going on in my head while you were speaking, like, oh, for recruiting companies, how awesome is this that it can you can bring this on, you can do high volume things, and then your return on your investment and the client's investment, instead of having people come back, typically there's a guarantee, like we guarantee that your person will be there for 30 days or up to 90 days, it can lessen that. And it can make you look so much better as a recruiting company. And then you can get in on the nitty gritty. As long as you have the qualifications up front, you do the high volume piece. On the back end, you have greater trust, and just you just feel better when you're putting people forward. One of the things that we talk about, and I know you've seen it, you've lived it, especially having your own company and bringing people on board, kind of the things that we talk about in the recruiting world is like people as a verb, and as a noun, they people. And people are unpredictable. They've got life things that happen, crazy things. You thought you had this fantastic candidate, you're paying him $270,000 a year, he ghosts you, right? I mean, you're like, how does this happen? And my $15 an hour person is showing up. Like, I don't understand, and vice versa. So I love that you guys have this tool that can kind of help minimize that, depending. And I guess that would be my next question. Are there ways, and what are the different things that you guys really focus on to minimize the peopling aspect of things?
The initial reaction by some, it's funny. It's like you get onto a sales call, so like a first meeting call, and like we just jump right. Like our sales approach is wow people with this tech, because it is wildly incredible. And so like we will literally, in the first 5 minutes, I'm telling my sales reps, get a live interview going, like meaning pull it up on the screen, have the person interview with our AI live, because 3 minutes after that, they're going to be like, holy shit, that was dramatically better than whatever I was like picturing in my head. Now I got a sense for what we're talking about here. The most common, initial thought is, okay, you're going to insert some kind of AI product to talk to candidates. That feels wildly inhuman, and impersonal in general, right? Like, what's that going to do to my brand? What's that, that's the first thing, right? And then you have to say, compared to what? And you're like, let's talk through your candidate experience today. Okay, you get 400 candidates for that role. That's some sales role, pretty common. What's your recruiter do? Oh, they look at maybe like 50 applicants. Maybe they get to 100. And they randomly just pick 10 that seem to have the highest numbers on their resume if they're hiring salespeople. And then they start to bring those people in for interviews if they can. Okay, well, the other 300 or 500 or whatever that you didn't even look at, guess what? None of them are hearing from you at all. So like majority of candidates will never hear from you other than maybe the 10 that they pick. And you're not like calling them and telling them why they didn't get picked. They just think that they got screened out from some AI screener. And they're like, well, great, I'll go move on to the next thing. And so you're like, your candidate experience is terrible today. So like, why don't we try and make it like a little bit better? And so by inserting this into the process, now you can interview all 400 or maybe 300 of the 400 if you wanted to, which would be impossible and
Humanly impossible. Terms. Yeah.
Yes. And so we're like, now, if Phil is on page 36 of the applicant, pages that come in, he would have never got a look. No one would have ever talked to him. Now he can get on with a voice AI and talk to it and sell himself on why he's a great candidate, and ideally get himself to the top of the list, right? And what we normally see is a lot of the best candidates are the first to opt in because they know they can sell themselves on this and get themselves to the top of the list instead of just being screened out because they were applied on day 4 and they're just never even going to get to the list of somebody's review. And so trying to humanize this is actually what it's counterintuitive. Insert some tech to actually humanize it in a few ways is trying to give way more people a fair chance to be able to do it. And then the other big component is, this is more on like the corporate side versus like staffing side, is like you go ask a recruiter, what do you hate doing all day? Like what's your least favorite activities? And they're like reviewing applicants' resumes specifically, because they're all GPT'd anyway, and I can like barely tell the difference. And then trying to do a bunch of these first screens with candidates who are really unqualified. And you're like, cool, what do you love doing? And they're like, I love spending time with my hiring teams, figuring out exactly what they're looking for. I love spending time with really high quality candidates and like getting them coached and helping them close and getting them on board. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, what percentage time do you put in those two buckets? And they're like, 90% in the first bucket, 10% in the second bucket. And you're like, that seems pretty brutal. Why don't we offload that first bucket to AIR and then put, say, 80% of your time into the second bucket? Your life actually gets way better. You're going to get better candidates through the system too. And like for the people you do hire, they're going to have an incredible experience. And guess what? Like the people that you aren't going to hire anyway, they at least get a shot to then sell themselves where they would have never got a shot before. So like ideally you can solve and humanize this a little bit and we're trying to make everybody's lives a little bit easier with this, but it is a little bit counterintuitive by putting this kind of in the middle.
This is fascinating. I love every bit of this. I'm not a cynic by design and everything else, so I'm not looking for things to shoot down, and I haven't found any either. But I just think of opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And when you talk about that whole using your time for what Brianna says is your area of genius, that's what she's always telling me. Phil, you got to put more time into your area of genius, and she's right. And you're doing that in your field. For sure. And it's like you say, you'd like to take that and just overlap that over every piece of the business process, period. And how do recruiting agencies respond to you? And my thought here is kind of leading the witness a little bit is that I would think that after their first initial shock that they would be like, how fast can we implement this ourselves? Because they would have an advantage over all of their competitors and they would be able to do everything that they can't do no matter what.
And not only that, if you have one campaign that is bringing in, say, 400 people, and maybe you specialize in sales, then you're growing and building your pipeline that, these folks can go over here. Now I've got a whole sector that I didn't even have to recruit for that are sitting over here that you can go out, either utilize them for current projects that you have, or potentially go to an old client and say, hey, look, I've got all these candidates. It might be a really good fit for you. Like this is kind of like networking on crack, like, or on steroids. We'll go with the bodybuilding thing. It's just like, this is awesome.
Yeah, if I was a giant international recruiting company, I'd be looking to buy you and keep you away from all the competitors and take advantage of everything you have.
Is that the hope? Is that the hope, Grady?
Yeah, the answer is staffing is very like top prospects for everybody in this field right now, and they get it right. Like staff in the last 2 years, basically no matter what industry you're in, staffing's been really difficult. Just overall hiring volumes have been down. Generally speaking,
I'd say since COVID, it's been extremely difficult.
Yeah, and like I was at a big staffing conference in March. It was like 1,500 executives from staffing firms, and I like sat through the keynote. And it's usually supposed to be this kind of like hype up thing about how exciting the next year is going to be. And like my key takeaways from the keynote were like, staffing's really hard. You guys should check out some AI stuff and like maybe consider getting out of staffing.
What?
And I was like, this is like a not positive note here. And it was like a bunch of all the executives like, yeah, it's been really, really challenging. And like where they are all looking right now is these are typically like legacy businesses. A lot of staffing firms have been around, established in the 80s and 90s, oftentimes like still the same owner, huge relationship business, right? And very low tech. And they've kind of brute forced everything with big recruiting teams and headhunting. And, the tech has been pretty like trailing as compared to a lot of different industries. And so like, this is one ripe for some innovation, especially with tools like this right now. Because you're replacing, direct man hours with something that's much faster, always consistent, bias free, always on, and like dramatically less cost. And so there's a race right now with most of the large staffing firms and mid-sized staffing firms with how fast can you optimize your business to be more competitive, to find better candidates, and then to help your cost profile, right? Like help out your EBITDA at the end of the day by lowering my people costs, but still being able to produce the same output. And so the fun and challenging part of this business right now is, one, it's a very good like use case. Like the ROI is clear and it's fast. This is for staffing and corporates. What's challenging about that is other people see this too, right? So like every day there's a new startup or 10 new startups or 50 new startups that are popping up in this space. and it's more trying to sift your way through the noise, right? Like if you're on the staffing side, you're probably getting hit up by 10 companies a day trying to sell you some sort of like automated recruiting solution. And it's constant. So I think like while there's a very good use case there, I think trying to make decisions on who you go with is actually kind of tough right now for a lot of these guys because they're getting overwhelmed and inundated with just too many options. And it's hard to tell, it's hard to signal through the noise, right? It's like trying to figure out who are the ones that are going to be longstanding here around in a year, not just two people, who hack together some systems and tools and can actually support a big enterprise company. And there's, with those parameters, there's like a couple of us out there, and that's it.
That was a great straight man lead-in. So many, we listen to you here and we're hyper focused on you, Grady, and your business. And it's like you're the only one out there and think, oh, how wonderful is this? This is like the dream for everybody. And you've gone from $0 to $80 million. I mean, there's plenty of people I know that'll be happy going from $0 to $800,000 in 2 years. And here you are with extra zeros, many, right there. So what advice do you have for people who that could relate to you, and for our listeners who are business owners or people who want to become business owners, or people who are established and stuck, any of them, based from your experience and where you are today from just a few years ago?
Oh, man. The general thing that I've learned here, and this is not going to be new information, which is like stay positive and keep thinking of ways to create new value streams for your companies. And like for us, we thought we were going to do the marketplace exclusively forever, but when that got really hard, we started like listening and poking and asking all of our customers, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? And we did a couple really, really tough years, like going like hockey stick in your first couple years, like not like in out years, like right out of the gate, like you get a lot of excitement going, right? And as you should. And then when things taper off for a couple years and you feel like, you're flat or growing when everyone else is shrinking in this space, like you still feel like you're failing, even though you're not, and like there were some dark days around here. Even though like, kind of like we're like overly obsessive, like very, we're not patient people who run this company, and like feeling like you're not growing exponentially every single year is like really, really stressful for us. And then, we started thinking about what are we good at? What could we be better at? And staying generally as much positive as we could, even though it felt very negative. And we've now come out on the other side with like a totally different product that's solving a very different problem. And guess what? 18 months ago, if you'd asked me about us doing this, I'd be like, first off, the tech didn't exist, right? Like none of this stuff existed 18 months ago. And like to just guess what would exist in the future is really tough. And so staying ahead of the curve has been our whole thing on like, what could we be building next? And now we've found another sweet spot where we're back into like the 2021 days where like everyone wants to talk to us again. I'm like, my sales team's happy. Like they're like, oh my God, remember like 2021 when we were like order taking? It like kind of is back to that. Like we've got something cool and innovative again. And like, if we would have just kept doing the same thing and, been like, hey, we'll make our way through this, just doing the same old, like we would have never got here. And so like continuously trying to think of new ways for us to like go build new cool shit based on like the new tech, like from a sales perspective, like that is the dream when you get something again that is hot, right? And like we are there again, and we wouldn't have got there if like Adam and our exec team wasn't like thinking about constant ways to evolve or die, basically. And now we got two good businesses. So I don't know, like that long-winded answer, but for us, it's been, man, highs and lows, like sales, like there's highs and lows daily, like meeting to meeting on what's going on. And it's been like that on a weekly, monthly, year scale for us for, 3 years now.
So here's something I want to throw out to everybody out there. So if you're listening to Grady, what he's talking about here, and yes, I am biased, but I'm biased because I know it's the right thing, is that he's got a sales team and he's investing in his sales team. When things got tough, they didn't say, well, we can't afford to have sales. I had somebody recently say, yeah, maybe one day I'll think about spending money on sales. In the meantime, they're throwing incredible amount of cash at marketing, and it's not sales versus marketing. It's both working together in step in the same plan. And here's Grady talking about, now the sales team's happy and getting everything else, but he's investing in the sales team. And if Grady, I guess, if you didn't have the sales team, I put words in your mouth here, you wouldn't be able to move forward because you're sitting here trying to figure out how to move the business forward, how to stay ahead of the competition, and just even stay ahead of technology if you can, or up with it. You're faster than everybody else. And then you still have to go out and find clients. And now you have competition. And then you have all the other stuff that the world throws at you. So that's well out of your control. So the sales team allows you to do all these different things. So with my statement and not really a question,
Yep.
What would you say to somebody if you were listening to this and you put what I just said on pause and you turn to somebody else, whether it's your own team or somebody you're counseling?
I think for us, when I think about the sales team and like my advice for, a scenario, like what got us through this and like why I think we've done well in the last couple of years here, pivoting the business pretty heavily, has been we got sales and our engineering teams way tighter. Like they operated very separately when we were a one product business, and taking directly what all of our sales team members were talking to our clients about every day, basically trying to figure out what all of their like biggest pain points were, and getting that into a very tight cycle with our product team, far better than I've seen anywhere else at this point. And it did not used to be like this. This is like relatively new for us, has moved our business a lot. So getting closer to our clients, and the people who are closest to the clients are the salespeople typically. Maybe there's some customer success or account management in there as well. And then I think you got to put the mentality into your sales team of you guys are trying to solve problems, and if you can solve it, we'll build it, right? And like getting them out of I can only sell what we have like mindset, it's I can sell them what we can build, right? And so trying to figure out what are the things that we could go build that I could then sell into my clients was like one of the most critical things. And doing so much client, like basically research via the sales team, not informally, right? Like, oh, what's that problem over there? Do you guys have a system that solves that today? No? Cool. Like, what if we built, and like, there was a lot of like, what if conversations with our sales team and clients that I think most sales teams would never do. And so I think that has been one of the keys over the last 18 months for us on trying to evolve so rapidly and just build to what we can sell.
Do you feel your business is different than anybody else's as far as, with sometimes slow decision makers? It's really about the decision maker, his or herself, right? I mean, it's not about whether your offerings, cause that or it's complex. The decision makers are the decision makers. Somebody who would have a hard time making decision on what kind of ice cream to get will have the same kind of what kind of vehicle should we get for our fleet. The process will go through the same mental anguish. And then others one who say, oh, that looks great, I'm going to take it, and I love the way that thing looks, I'll take it without looking under the hood. That's all kind of the same. So where do you feel that is there any differentiation in your business that may be unique to what you do as opposed to everybody else?
I think there's kind of like, I would say there's two things in our sales cycle that we've learned a lot. Going from a non-automated AI-driven product to this thing has full conversations with candidates about as high risk as like perceived high risk as a company could could have when it comes to automation. Like we've leapfrogged a lot of steps, or like, on the change curve type thing. And for us, one, seeing is believing. Everybody, there's too much AI noise out there in general, especially at the executive level, where everybody is talking about, the 15 different things somebody sent to them that week. And trying to make decisions is really tough. And so you have to be able to walk into an executive meeting. And in our case, it's like the head of talent acquisition or the CHRO being able to walk into an executive meeting and say, hey guys, I just tried out this new product over here. And this is the key for us, is we figured out right away that we're going to have to offer some way for people to trial this for, 2-4 weeks, maybe more, get 100, 200, 300 candidates through the system, and then measure the data outputs. And then we are building with like the head of TA or the CHRO, we're like co-building a business presentation that they then can go deliver to their executive team. And every single time it has to be, if I'm going to invest in this, I need to see this type of ROI. And in our particular case, it happens to be pretty easy to build the case because you're replacing, human hours oftentimes, and it's not just the recruiter time. It's oftentimes the hiring manager time. Like they're having to interview 10 people to hire one. It's like, okay, you spent 90% of your time with people you're not going to hire. Like we should be able to solve that. So for us, one of the big unlocks has been offer a fast way for people to trial this, do an incredible job capturing the data points on ROI, specifically co-building with our, executive sponsor that they are then going to have to go present to their ELT. And then I would say the second thing that's really challenging right now, Phil, for anybody kind of in anything that has like AI branded whatever, which is a lot of things at this point, but like true automation sitting in it, a lot of companies don't know how to buy yet. Meaning they've got an AI governance board that they just created that consists of 9 people who know nothing about AI, not because they don't want to, but because it's just all new. Info security, IT, legal, all these teams don't quite know what is too risky, not risky enough. They don't know the right questions to ask. And you can it's like navigating the business part to figure out, okay, this is going to solve a problem for you and create ROI. That actually is the easy part for us right now. The harder part is trying to navigate personal opinions at the executive level on if AI should be involved in hiring or not. Any kind of like bias mitigation or whatever people's general feelings are around LLMs and hiring. Info security, kind of how you're storing the data, all that kind of stuff that's kind of new, specifically when it comes to like automating workflows. And then legal is like, what level of risk from a regulation perspective are we willing to take on in this space? And so like showing the business value is actually the easy part, and then kind of navigating everything else after that has been the slow part in a lot of these different companies. And it's because we're like oftentimes the first product they've bought outside of maybe some GPT licenses that has this level of automation in it, and it's hard for them to know what to do.
Fantastic answer. So Brianna, before I just kind of take over this whole interview, I don't want to jump in on what your thoughts are, because I got a couple more as we're getting closer to the end of our time here already. It went by fast.
I am super impressed with all the things that you guys have been able to do, because I've been in that space that you're speaking to as far as helping companies be able to hire, specifically government contractors, to be able to hire the right people to get them into place within government facilities. And it, over the past number of years, 5 years, it has been a bear. And that I'm being kind. It's been it's been crazy, and with the landscape changing daily for a while there, it's definitely, well, it slowed down and then it sped back up again with Doge, and now there's a whole bunch of people I'm being contacted every single day. Hey, do you have a job? Hey, do you have a job? Hey, do you have a job? And I'm trying to get them connected with the right people that would make sense for them. So I feel like your product can't come at a more perfect time. It was like everything has kind of come together to get you where you are. And that's really, really cool. And as far as the compliance piece, I feel like that will come together too. I've got a husband in cybersecurity, and that's something that he's working with the companies that he partners with as well. And so being able to, hey, we got to tick the boxes, make sure that we're super secure, as well as ensure that you're able to do the branding, you're able to do the customer service, you're able to do sales, you're able to actually do the operations piece of the business too, and ensure that everything is buttoned up tight and you didn't just open up the door to something because you're using this AI product. So I feel you on that. And I feel like once you get past that, you guys are going to be gangbusters. It's just like, this is how we can help solve this problem for you. These are the things that you need to put in place, kind of solving that problem. Just like you said, sell as you go. Sell as you go. So how can we solve this?
Well, and in the vein, I'm with you, and like we're learning really fast, and like we're now learning how to coach companies how to buy this type of stuff. Like, hey, here's the questions you should be asking. Here's the answers you should be looking for.
That's awesome.
Yeah, ideally helping them kind of build the blueprint for evaluating us, but then like the next set of tools that they buy in whatever category. And then kind of the last piece on our sales team and kind of like what's unique to us right now, and like this goes back to kind of what I was talking about before, which is like, hey, sales team, you're not only responsible for selling whatever we have currently available, you're responsible for figuring out what we're going to go build next. And like with that, we've seen, I don't know, probably a dozen different use cases right now for different voice AI technology where we could go build, this is probably first of many kind of recruiting agents. There's many. Think like, performance review agents that could interview people to talk about their peers, reference checks, intake calls, employee engagement. There's so much from an like voice AI agent perspective right now that we can go build, and we're just hearing it constantly. And like, I'm like, hey, sales team, like every time you hear of a new use case that might be kind of interesting, like get it to me, we'll go size it, we'll figure out like what might be of it, like basically trying to figure out the market opportunity, all centered around what can you go sell, right? Like what are people's willingness to buy? And it all comes straight from the sales crew at this point, which has been a really fun, experience for the last year for us, where it's just like, hey, sales team, you're basically our product research team, and then feed that right in, and we'll start building whatever we think is going to sell at the greatest success with solving the biggest problem next. So
I love that. So any salespeople out there, if you're one of those folks who wants to be a part of that, I feel like it's a great opportunity to use Braintrust.
I am looking for a couple of really good sales folks right now. So yeah, if that seems like an environment you want to be a part of, it's pretty fun. And it's very different from like a big business where your voice doesn't matter. Product is what it is, and the next 3 years of roadmap are unchangeable. That is not the case around here. Like we're moving week to week.
Real quick, and we'll do this again at the end, but based on what you just said, what's the best way and this is a greenfield, right? So this will be available all the time. So you'll always be looking for good salespeople. So how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Grady Gardner, Braintrust. That's probably easiest. Or shoot me an email. It's grady@usebraintrust.com.
Yeah. So I want to say that now that all of you have listened through this once, if you got this far, you made it all the way through, you should go back then and listen to it again from an entirely different perspective. If you listen, Grady and Braintrust are, from a sales perspective, are doing so many things well. I'm sure if you ask Grady privately, internally, there's a whole bunch of other things they could be doing a lot better, which is how they get better all the time.
Yeah.
But relatively speaking, there's so much, and how you adapt and how you involve the team, but what you coach them on and everything else, and the process. And one of the things that really caught my attention is something that if somebody was listening to say, hey, Phil, Grady completely contradicted what you coach us to do when we're getting in the door. He goes right into a demonstration. He doesn't go, and the truth of the matter is no, that's not what he's doing. He's got the ultimate attention getter. That's why, Grady, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Grady and the team discovered that is the attention getter. That is a positive attention getter. I sat through, I'm not going to get into all this, but through a presentation once, 20 minutes into it, and the customer finally said, oh, that's what you do. And I was a viewer in this meeting. I wasn't on either end of it. And I knew what this company did, and I was wondering what they did. And so what Grady does is he takes that whole thing out and his people know exactly what it is, exactly what they're looking at, and then they could go into the question asking phase and all that other stuff. So he's not skipping the process or breaking a tried and true process. He's utilizing it to his advantage by showing them and making sure they all have a clear vision and they're not guessing. And it kind of puts all the AI stuff, maybe not completely out of the way, but certainly softens the opinions, right? So that was fantastic. And there's so many more examples from the business side and the sales side that Grady addressed here in such a positive way and such a real way. I loved it. There's innovation in there and everything else. So I'm thrilled. I'm sure Brianna is too, speaking for her, that you're here with us today. So it was magnificent.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. And yeah, to that point, Phil, like I've never had a product that like wows people right out of the gate. And so I'm like, get that front and center because it's 10x better than whatever they're picturing. And then, yeah, go do your discovery and figure out if this might be a good fit. But the best part about it for us right now is people start immediately telling you where it would fit in their business. They start doing the solutioning for me versus the other way around, which I haven't seen before. Like it's a very different dynamic. Like it's not where we started. And then we kind of figured out this is the interesting part. And we'll probably pivot it at some point to something else, but yeah, appreciate it.
By helping others to learn how to buy AI better and do that other stuff, even though that's not your business, but that extra education gives you all that credibility. Why would they ever do anything with anybody else? So I'm done because I could go off with this all the time. So, we'll give you an opportunity once again to share with everybody how they get a hold of your company and you, and I'll leave the rest with Brianna.
You guys can find me, just Grady Gardner on LinkedIn. You can also just go to our website, braintrust.com. We've got an easy way for people to run, say, 100 candidates through it, no cost. Just jump on. There's a quick form at the top. You can also do sample interviews with our AI, which is really fun. So you can just go in and do mock interviews, which is a pretty credible experience. So yeah, braintrust.com, go check us out. Hit me up if you guys need any help in the recruiting space.
That's fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And we are going to wrap this up. So how do you get a hold of us, Phil?
You go to beentheresoldthat.com and you can get to both of us that way. You can get to us individually. It's really the best way and the easiest way for you to remember, just beentheresoldthat.com.
Awesome. Everybody have a fantastic day. And Phil,
until next time, good selling.
Take care.